This episode of Trials and Trebuchets is brought to you by Fanroll Dice. If you're in the market for some new, top-notch dice, and who am I kidding, folks? We're all always on the prowl for some shiny rocks, then look no further than fanrolldice.com. Whether it's their bewitching liquid cores, a pack of trusty misfit medals, or even a set of oh-so-endearing miniature dice, you'll find anything you're looking for and more at fanrolldice.com. And don't forget to use our code TRIALS10 at checkout for 10% off your order of new little crit machines.
Welcome back to Conversations in Catapults. I'm your host, Nathan, and today I am joined by a bunch of totally normal, unsuspicious sailors. These are just sailors for hire, not pirates. Definitely not pirates.
Well, too bad. I'm bringing back the pirate accent. My name is Ben, and I play Castaway on the hit podcast Trials and Trebuchets.
The yard over there looks really nice, doesn't it? Me, a normal sailor, Sarah, who plays Joan Evelyn Kingsley on the hit podcast Trials and Trebuchets.
I don't have any fun second identities right now. Hi, I'm Sam. I played the human sorceress Serenep Cinderman. I didn't get any cool name this time. Dang it.
You know what? You got enchanted. You might have a cool name next episode. That's right. Unfortunately, we do not have Carla, who plays the character of Billy Betty Knives with a KH Boop. She is busy saving lives and helping people. So, unfortunately, it is just going to be the four of us. So it's going to be a little bit more of an intimate recording this time. We're all just going to throw some stuff out there, which, number one, without Billy Betty Boop here, I would love to hear what the three of you all, what your current read is on that deal that Integrity made with the Progenitor. Is the Progenitor finally coming around to be, a decent Warlock patron?
No. I think, as usual with the Progenitor is just trying to be all nice and happy and, buddy-buddy with Integrity. And then the next thing you know, it's I want you to kill
As
this
usual.
person right now.
Yeah, I was about to say, as usual, the Progenitor is the person who is oh, you want anything? Kill your cousin.
Yeah, why would you fucking trust a creature that just tells you to do that, unprompted?
I think because the Progenitor has realized, oh, Integrity does not respond to this kind of language. I have to, come at this as, a friend. Oh, I've changed my ways. Let me help.
I am a noted Progenitor hater. Many know this. I don't think the Progenitor is a great villain, typically, but they're coming around. I think the Progenitor, making some offers, starting to build up a relationship of trust is a very good step. I can't wait to see how it goes absolutely horribly. Don't trust them for a minute, but them sort of starting to make these plays excites me very much.
Yeah, it just makes me wary because, this ominous, omnipotent patron has now suddenly put on the act of, oh no, I appear to have shot myself in the foot. I'm so weak. Oh, what do? I need your help. It's
just a little guy.
What are you playing at?
Right.
I'm not even a full snake. I just have a cobra head.
We're just better than you. Skill issue, I guess.
God. Just the thing that really worries me is we will use each other and then we will part ways.
I mean,
What
you
do
do
mean by
part
that?
ways in death, I guess.
Listen, it's easy to part ways with someone who's been fucking snake genocided, I'll say that.
Oh, jeez.
By
Louise.
definition, the ways will be parted if the Progenitor gets their way.
Oof. Yeah, it honestly puzzles me in terms of the game that the Progenitor is playing here. Especially because how is this going to convince Integrity to do anything that the Progenitor truly wants is totally beyond me, but I am really happy to see the Progenitor being a little bit a little bit fucked up, a little bit sneaky with it.
A little bit sneaky with it. I mean, the thing is, if the progenitor's advice here genuinely does ring true and genuinely does benefit Integrity, Integrity did not tell the rest of us that she learned this information from the progenitor. And so if the progenitor is able to show Integrity that, you know, by working with me and not disclosing this information to the rest of the group, what can come for you are only good things. I will give you genuinely useful information. I don't know that that is immediately going to lead into a plan. Like, I don't know if the stuff here directly relates to the progenitor, but I do think it could be a way of them getting their foot in the door to be like, okay, I've asked for nothing. Next time, I'm going to ask for a little. The time after that, I'm going to ask for a lot. And by then, oh, you're not telling your friends about this. Like, you are in so deep that what are you going to do now? You have no choice. Maybe.
Now, here's a question for you all, and I'm glad that, Sarah, you touched on Integrity not speaking up about how she got this information. How does it put the two of you, Ben and Sarah, when you as co-players know Integrity got this information from the progenitor? Is there like a degree of wanting to lean into not knowing, or is there more of an instinct of like, you know, you fell asleep and you woke up with information? I feel like your characters would be smart enough to put that together, but you very intentionally made the choice of just, oh, it's your intuition.
Yeah. I think for me anyway, and I'm not sure how it is for Ben, I do think that, you know, reasonably, would Mira be able to put together that this was a progenitor vision? Yeah, I mean, probably. But also, one, like, we trust our friend, so I think there's an assumption that if she's not saying something, it's for a good reason. And then secondly, I think there's just this meta thing of like, oh, you know, Carla is going for a thing of like keeping a secret from the party. I don't think from a player perspective, it would be fair to be like, oh, it was a progenitor thing, because obviously she's going for something here. And I also don't, like, if that is something that's being built up to, I wouldn't want to have us, you know, metaphorically like blow our load too early when it could be a buildup that could be very satisfying, like after a period of waiting. I guess it's just like, okay, Carla, I see what you're going for here. Let's see where you're going with this.
Yeah, let's avoid any premature exposition and like really handle this.
But that's just where I'm at. Yeah.
Ben, what about you? Because I almost feel like, Ben, and this may be a misread, I feel like you enjoy the goofy aspect of like buying into a dumb lie.
I do think it's really hilarious when it's like, oh, this is just an integrity-ism. This is just kind of what Integrity does. She just
true.
lies and does things, and it doesn't really amount to much. So probably wouldn't really go too deep into like, oh, the progenitor is the one responsible for giving this information. It would just be like, Integrity is just weird and just happens to just know things off the top of her head. And it's like, this is completely normal. This is not anything that's really different from what we already know. So there's no reason for me to like not trust Integrity. It's just helpful in the moment, but also just kind of bizarre. I
love that Carla's initial pitch for Integrity was a very mysterious rogue.
So
and now
mysterious.
She's now mysterious in a different way, which is just like, okay, you just do kind of your own thing. And we're like, at this point, we're not going to question anything you say or do because you're so mysterious. Yeah, it's Integrity. Her motivations are mysterious. That's just such a fun, full circle thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the motivations are strange. However, they do line up with our own motivations. So in the end, you know, it works out, kind of.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of motivations, though, Sam, you are at a very interesting position at this like chapter of the arc of Homecoming, which is, you know, Serenep is in a very suspicious place, or like there's like this off-putting vibe when things are a little bit too welcoming or a little bit too well planned. And yet, I'm really interested in like playing Serenep as someone who is both cautious but also honest, like telling Dr. Winston that, oh, if I were with the king right now, I would probably yell at him. Not a low profile thing to say. I wanted to hear about your like motivations or like your North Star for like playing Serenep during these scenes.
Like meeting Dr. like understanding, because like at this point in time, Serenep understands that, or at least her understanding going to this island or something like that was that something happened to Philip when he got taken at the Capitol. Somewhere in her head, she was like, okay, we are not there. Like, she's talked to people before who have been like, hey, do something for me, and I can do something for you. So when she talked to the doctor, like when they were like, hey, help me with my research and I can try and put a good word in. I think at this time it's just the fact that like she kind of trusted too quickly, because she just really wanted to have like more help in this situation, because Philip got worse. This, like, whatever was happening, like, this seemed to be helping. She didn't have enough information to really gather more. Like, she tried to, but Philip caught up to her when she was at the library to look at stuff. She was like, okay, I guess we're taking a leap of faith right now, and it unfortunately didn't work at this moment.
Yeah, is that on your end, as a player who might be more cognizant of things than Sereneth, do you find it like kind of difficult to play someone who is taking a leap of faith while, like, you're a very canny player, you are like aware of when Philip goes like, what are we doing back here? And then is like, oh, everything is fine. Like, you clearly like know that's a signal for something, but you very intentionally play Sereneth as wanting to trust Philip here. Is there a part of her that is like willing to take whatever bargain this is in order to get out of, you know, the position of being a traitor, or if it is something that allows her to be with Philip?
That's such a difficult thing, because I think the two things that are important to Sereneth is wanting to be her own person and Philip. Like, they're like, he's a very important person to her, but so is wanting to, like, she even said in like the whole thing, like, I would be happy to not be a noble after this. Like, I'm like, get my name off of the wanted posters, but if they're like, you can never be important in the capital, everything like that, then that's fine.
But inversely, though, what if the only way to be with Philip is to be a noble?
Ooh.
I think that if the only way to be with Philip would be noble, I believe she would do it.
Wow.
Ooh.
I almost think that like Philip is what's really holding Sereneth back from losing her status as like a noble. I feel like if Philip was just simply let go and Sereneth was free of Philip, she would truly then be free of this noble lifestyle. But because he's always there and she's always, you know, wanting to trust Philip and be with Philip, she can never really escape that part of her life. It's always going to haunt her forever, basically.
It's so interesting to see this be the big choice that she has to make, because I feel like this arc is building up to a question of, you know, Sereneth having to answer, who as a person does Sereneth want to be? What kind of life does she want to lead? And, you know, where Philip fits into that and how important he is in the trade-off of being safe versus being free, I think is going to be very interesting.
Yeah. Like, we can see, hey, this is actually really holding you back. Sereneth can't.
Mm-hmm. And also, Sereneth has come close to making deals with bad people before. Like, you know, the aforementioned progenitor thing of, hey, you went basically right up to the finish line of like, all right, what do I need to do to get out of this? Like, what do I need to do to change my fate? And the cost was too great, which makes sense for Sereneth, which was, you got to kill your cousin. It's like, oh, no, I'm not doing that.
Nah, not doing that. It's not good.
That was the deciding factor. If the cost being too great, what if like you start negotiating on what the price is? It is, well, you can be with Philip, but you're still going to be princess. You're still going to marry Fred, but he will be your real partner, is Philip as like a courtesan or whatever. You know, like something that is like super common in these arranged noble marriages. Like, this is your real relationship. You just happen to have to be with Fred for this. Is that something that she'd be willing to like negotiate on or like accept?
That's a really good question. I think Sereneth hasn't like stepped out of being a noble until like the treason and everything like that happened. I think if it had been brought up as like, well, you know, like traditionally, like in arranged marriage, like the whole thing that you were talking about, like arranged marriages having, you know, someone on the side that they truly love, that kind of thing. If she was still like deep into it, I think she would go 100% yes. Thank goodness she's with him still. With everything happening right now, though, like, again, like, time will tell what's going to happen during this arc and how she's going to start kind of looking at how much she kind of depends on Philip in a weird way going on right now. I think she's that 100% slowly dropping in percentage now, reaching a point of like, oh, actually, this is really going to cost my identity, but she's still kind of working towards that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I appreciate like that kind of slow burn approach. Like, You know, as Sarah was talking about earlier, like, you don't want to get to the end point too quickly. You want a very natural progression up to it. Now, Ben, Sarah, with Winsler and Mira and Wim, essentially, arriving at this island, how do you think your characters would react to hearing Serenep say, actually, I might choose this life in order to be with Philip? Like, if you all went through all of this work to get her back or to figure out what's going on here, and Serenep gets a deal similar to the one that I mentioned earlier of no, I'm going to marry Fred, but I'll have Philip on the side, and that's my one true love, so that's what really matters. Would your characters be supportive of that decision, or do you think they would try to talk Serenep out of it?
I think Mira's immediate suspicion would be that Serenep had been enchanted in some way, because we know, oh, this isn't Philip, as we know him, or at least that's where the suspicion is at the moment. I don't think that Mira would be like, oh, fuck you, we worked hard for you. I think the primary concern there is just that our friend is not going to get executed, you know? I think if that is the choice that Serenep wants to make, Mira would, and Mira legitimately believed that this was actually Serenep making that decision of her own volition, she would be understanding, but I do think it would be a bit of a sad moment, because it's like, you have sacrificed your personhood for Philip Maisel here. But, you know.
For the Gollum boy, really, Serenep?
Yeah, it feels like, I guess initially if Sereneth came forward and was like, this is my decision, I feel like there would just be sort of like an immediate suspicion. It's just like, you've only been on this island for maybe less than a day. You stayed overnight and now it's afternoon or whatever. You've been on this for less than 24 hours and all of a sudden your opinion and your decision has suddenly changed to this. Feels a little fast, right? Considering how Sereneth likes to take her time and be very cautious when it comes to making decisions and going forward with something. So it just feels kind of bizarre, especially when Philip was already acting very strange the first time we saw him when he got back to Wildcliff. And then the next time we saw him at the chapel where he had a little bit more agency. So there's definitely that air of something's going on here, but if the conversation continued, it's more like, if this is really you and this is really your decision, then I'm not really going to stand in your way. I will try and help you as best I can, but I just wonder if all the sacrifices before that and the sacrifices in the future are probably going to be worth it. Do you think this is going to be a worthwhile decision to make after everything that you've gone through already?
I think it's very valid.
You've already given up your parents' names to Celti, and now it almost feels like it's sort of a backpedal now. It's like almost the giving up of the names is like a regret almost, and you're trying to backpedal onto that and see if you can fix the damages that you've already caused. It just seems a little suspicious.
Sam, does Serenep regret giving up those names now that she knows the effect that it had on the wider world?
She doesn't regret it. She saw that, Winsler's important to the group. She saw how much he meant to her and her friends and the people around her. And comparing it to her own experience with her parents, it wasn't that hard of a decision to make to finally take that first step. Obviously, we're in this situation now, but taking that first step to finally kind of get out of the nobility, to give up who she was.
That's very interesting to me, because knowing Winsler for 2 years and how bad must Serenep's relationship with her parents be if it is one of my friends who I've known for a few years versus, that makes a lot of sense. But it is also kind of heartbreaking to hear in terms of Serenep is not interested in reconciliation. It's more about escape, which is totally understandable for her, because sometimes there are people that you can't reconcile with.
Yeah.
Now, talking about the infiltration of, is it Falling Star or Wishing Star Island?
It's Wishing Star Island.
Wishing Star Island. Also, Ben, how long have you had that kind of, was that just immediately after hearing the name, knowing the Dwarven folktale, or?
No, I just thought I rolled kind of well on that history roll, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna take the initiative, sort of like how in that exam period that we had so many episodes ago. It's this is our opportunity to sort of world build in Luke's little world as our own. We can just give our own answer, and it could be true, it could be wrong, depending on how well we do. And I thought, why don't we just make it interesting? And this could be like a dwarven folktale that Winsler probably heard when he was like younger and growing up. It's like, this would be just really cute to just, have him recollect this name or this like familiar folktale that might be related. I just thought it was like a really cute thing to do.
That's very cute. And also, dear listeners, I've recorded the DM section before recording the player section.
Time traveler.
Yeah. Fun fact, that's literally Luke's idea. Like, that was Luke's lore behind the actual name of the island. Really blew my mind that you two are so in sync.
It was insane. Like, he was telling me about that after we did that. And the fact that we just sort of had the same idea was shocking, honestly.
Absolutely.
But also, it was very not shocking because we tend to think on the same things a lot of the time. So
Very true.
I feel like I might have just fished that idea out of his brain and took it for my own, maybe.
That tracks. That seems to be the common thread.
I also wanted to ask about the infiltration of the island for, Winsler and Mira. Is there an end goal other than just, like, keeping eye on Sereneth? Or are you hoping to get something out of this in terms of, like, I know that you have obligations to Alla Algrim, Mira, especially with, like, her saying, don't contact me again until you have the full story. Whereas Winsler, you don't have as much skin in this game, or at least, outside of Sereneth's safety being your stake here. I was just curious in terms of, what you see as like potential challenges coming up, because you all are in good with the crew at the very least.
So far.
Listen, Joan Evelyn Kingsley fucking coming in with a tall tale. That
Yeah.
is
Oh, dear.
knowing how to work sailors. That is pretty perfect. Then we have Integrity, who's going to be incredible at the knife game that everyone is playing on this fucking island. And Cast Away.
Cast away.
Just losing
Cast
money
away.
over and over because he sucks at cards, I guess.
Damn.
Hey, they're gonna love him for that.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, wow, look at Mr. Moneybags over here. We're gonna extort the fuck out of him.
Being bad
That's
at
an
things
in.
actually makes people really like you, I've found.
I guess. Well, going back on that question of yours, the whole like, what stakes do you have in this? Other than getting into contact with Sereneth just to make sure that we get word of mouth from her that, yeah, she's okay. Everything seems to be okay. I guess it's also sort of worry about Philip too, because Winsler has that whole thing with the golemification and the conversation with Ari and everything. So I think Winsler wants
Great
to keep
point.
a close eye on Philip just to make sure whatever's going on is not some sort of golem thing that's affecting him. It could be something else entirely. It's more just like watching him and understanding what's happening in real time, and is there a way we can probably fix it, I guess. Or how do I get ideas to come up with a solution to this? So I guess it's more of like a safety for two people.
That makes a lot of... I'd never even considered that aspect. I'm also curious if there's any interest in Winsler of like, oh, is there a way to purify this process to allow people to be golemified? I don't know. Like,
I don't
safely?
think he wants people to be golems. I think he just wants to make sure that Philip doesn't die.
Nothing wrong with being golems, all right?
It's true.
Well, I mean, you've seen the way that we treat them. Bagging them in the middle of the night so they don't see what we're doing.
Listen, those golems are fucking bootlickers. That's not because they're golems.
I know, but still, I don't know if I want to wish a golemification fate on anybody.
Very fair.
Sarah, tell me about what Mira's thoughts are here.
What Mira's going for is quite straightforward here, to be perfectly honest. No hidden agenda. Do what Alla says in terms of like find out where this, like what the deal is with this place, what the plan is. Try to get in enough with the sailors that they can, figure out, first of all, if this is some sort of turn Sereneth to the capital thing. I think the vibe Mira has right now is that not everybody is going to be let in on this just because you don't tell every single person you hire for a job every single specific thing. So it's a matter of figuring out who knows what's going on here, which seems like maybe Rhaegar. Get in with them. And if this is a safe situation, report that back. If it's a dangerous situation, just find a way to get Sereneth out of there without drawing any suspicion.
That makes a lot of sense. And also, especially with, that one sailor, like, checking Mira's eyes while she was disguised
Yeah.
as Philip, being like, oh, I was told to look for warning signs. It's like, oh, everyone here is super well informed as to, like, something's up with Philip, and they want to make sure that that stays up.
Exactly.
We also know that there's a mage among those sailors, which is a little
true.
bit
Rhaegar.
A little bit concerning.
Yeah, Rhaegar was very proud of their magic, and in a very interesting, very tense way with Mira disguised as Philip. Any theories as to like what shape that has taken, what kind of mage this person is?
Well,
I know that would be just a shot in the dark, but
Nathan, did you tell Luke your theory, or did you only tell me?
you know, he didn't confirm nor deny anything, and I think he did not seem super like keen on it. So I think, you know, go for your like honest, unbiased opinion here.
I don't know why, because this isn't even a theory. This is just a vague vibe. But something in my heart of hearts is telling me sorcerer.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I could see that, yeah.
Sam, what do you think? Because Seraph has also interacted with Rhaegar when they're all like calling her princess still, and oh no, it's just a joke. I don't like calling people by their names. But what is her read on this individual who Philip seems to trust?
Are we talking general read or what kind of magic user I think they are?
Both. I mean, up to you.
I'm going to be honest, when it comes to the magic user portion, I'm not as familiar with the other types of magic users. They clearly, like from Serena's point of view, like they clearly know way more than what their pay grade is, if that makes sense. Being told like, oh yeah, like I hired like to get us to the island, but there's clearly other parts to it. Like how deep do they know how that works? Like were they a part of that before? Like what are the stepping stones? Like where are they on the ladder? Is that on the ladder?
Yeah, are there any suspicions that Sereneth would have there then?
I mean, the first thing that really threw Sereneth off was the fact that they were saying that they were calling her princess, because that definitely brings the thought of like, did Philip lie in some way to say that she was still getting married?
Or they think she is. Like, oh,
Yeah.
it's fine. We're going to make a deal with her. She's going to go back. She's going to marry the prince.
Yeah,
This
like-
is still the princess.
Yeah, because like again, like Philip's also been staring at the red light quite a bit there apparently. So it's just again like there's not enough knowledge at this point to really 100% know, but just they're more powerful than we were introduced to them with. Like there's more to it.
I have a theory.
Ooh.
If you'll allow
Let's
me
hear it,
to
then.
elaborate on it.
I'll allow it.
I think that Rhaegar and their group of sailors actually secretly work for the kingdom.
Ooh.
They are agents of the kingdom, and Rhaegar is a storm sorcerer, and storm sorcerers are very adept at controlling the weather to benefit their travels overseas. So I think that they might be a specialized group of sailors designed to go and find people who might travel across the ocean.
Or maybe they're old buddies with someone who we know is in the Ashwin Navy.
Could be.
Good old Prince Fred.
When you need something to get done on the down low, you go and get the people who are technically out of bounds.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. I am excited to see more of them. And also, the good Dr. Winston, I think we could all agree is like just fine, right? Like no one gets to
totally.
be called the good doctor without being a good doctor.
Oh, Natch.
The good doctor's done nothing wrong, of course.
Yeah. Listen, failing a saving throw doesn't mean anything bad happens.
Failing a wisdom saving throw? Sure.
It was just to cast Hold Person on Serenep so that they could like look into her eyes better, without any problem.
They just really wanted to show off the light show that they can put on in the
Yeah.
lighthouse. Like, no, yeah, just stand right here. It's a perfect angle. Come on.
Yeah. Artis was actually trying to scry on Serenep at the time. It was just totally
Yeah.
unrelated.
Just to look after.
Yeah, this has all been one big red herring on Luke's end.
Oh,
So
I get
I'm
it because
very
the light is red.
There it is.
There we go.
Now, sorry, I totally lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
But I think your Storm Sorcerer idea makes a lot of sense, Ben. And I think, one final question before we wrap up here is having the party split in this way. Do you feel that as players, you are having to kind of balance out the two disparate pieces of the narrative that's going on right now? And I mean that in terms of like, we are getting some very fun hijinks with Wim. The infiltration has been so fun, like genuinely like ridiculously great. And then we also have Sam has to like, and I don't know if this is quite fair or like But Serenep is in a place of not being able to be as active because she is trusting someone who is deceiving her. Do you feel that kind of darkness means that we need to have more levity on the whim side, or do you think that it is just a matter of like, no, it's just how we were feeling at the current time, or like what we were being thrown at by Luke?
I feel like with a lot of Serenep's stuff, there's always a sort of, there's like a cloud over it kind of thing. Like, because I unfortunately just made a character with just a weird and like fun backstory of like everything kind of sucks and they want to leave and it's kind of difficult to leave. But I don't think having like the funny hijinks happening on the island has changed how I myself am acting in those scenes itself. It's always like I enjoy laughing at the antics, even though I understand in Serenep's position right now, you know, there's not really a moment to like, you know, joke around with the doctor, for instance. Like, I think it is trying to keep a balance though, because, you know, like part of it's really serious at the moment, though I'm hoping that we'll kind of reach a point where it's not as serious once we leave the lighthouse, for instance. And then, you know, we have the other part where it's the guy like infiltrating at the cabana, like trying to get in with the other sailors, that kind of stuff. I'm hoping that we'll be able to like meet at some point and be able to go back to some stuff is serious, but like, you know, some stuff is also goofy and fun to keep the balance together as a group instead of having the cuts between the two scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, like, whenever you are splitting the party, you have to consider, you know, you don't want to make it go on too long because, you know, just in terms of the time economy, you want to make sure it's, like, fair to people. In terms of, like, is there a pressure to, like, have the scenes be a certain way to maintain a balance between the levity and the seriousness? I haven't found that that has been intentionally something I've needed to worry about, but I do think just not having Serenep in the group does lend itself more to, you know, the more shenanigansy approach because, like, obviously Serenep as a member of the party is, you know, not always down for shenanigans. You could see this even in, like, Integrity when they returned after Phase being like, I'm gonna scare Artis, and Serenep being like, hey, Artis, Integrity is right. You know, stuff like that, where, you know, when it's just whim, I think it is just naturally a more shenanigan-y time. But also from a top-level standpoint, I think that it really works here because though the intention, at least for me, is not directly to balance out the more serious, like, main plot stuff with Serenep, I do think that it works very well to accomplish that purpose. It gives you a little bit of both in a way that I'm very happy with. But as I said earlier, as Sam, you were kind of saying, we do want to reach a point where the party should pretty soon, I'm guessing, unite with one another again and get up to speed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Splitting the party has always been something that I've sort of been like, sort of on, because there is that sort of imbalance with things, and it's like you don't want one person to get too much focus over the others and such like that, but you don't want it to be on vice versa and everything. I think the balance is okay for like a party split. Like, we're not in like extremely dire straits yet. I feel like if the stakes were a lot higher, then it would probably be a little bit difficult, because then I feel like there would be a meta perspective of like, we are pressed for time, we should not goof around so much. But I think it's just, we're in a new place. We're all kind of having a good time in terms of like goofing and goffing over on one side, and I feel like, you know, that's kind of necessary to sort of like break away from the serious nature of what's going on with Serenep and everything.
Absolutely.
I feel like just seeing just a couple of folks trying to infiltrate in like the most absurd way possible is probably very refreshing, and I think it helps keep things interesting, because now it's like, okay, we're done goofing and goffing, now we get to figure out what's going on next, you know?
It's true. That was something that I think really lent itself well into 28 especially. Mm-hmm. Like, having that kind of split was really nice because it was like an inhale, exhale type of thing. Mm-hmm. But all of this to say, I really enjoyed these episodes in particular. And I'm very excited. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about, especially considering like how both Sam, chances are you're going to be playing an enchanted party member.
Oh boy.
And Ben, Sarah, you two will be, as players, will be aware of this enchantment and having to navigate that kind of meta knowledge as your characters as well. I am incredibly interested in, and I just can't wait to talk about it with you all.
Yes.
I'm very excited.
Well, that's a fun little teaser for what Nathan thinks is coming next time.
Whoa.
But before we can get to that, we have to go and slide into the DMs.
Slide. Whoa. Watch out for that oil slick.
Whoa.
Oh, fuck. Welcome back to Slide into the DMs. I'm your host, Nathan, and joining me is a very good doctor, Luke, the DM. I was about to call you just Doctor last name.
Dr. Luke. My parents would love to call me Dr. Luke, I think, but so be it. Life is life.
Oh, Luke.
Hi.
I gotta say, this little batch was quite good for me. Quite good for me. Like, I just really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to this that I enjoyed, but
Yeah.
I had a very pressing question to ask.
Oh, yes.
Because my tinfoil hat was on while I was listening
Yes.
to these episodes. And I think I'm on some shit, but I may not be. But what color are Dr. Winstead's eyes?
I'm going to correct you. We were talking before this. You have some great ideas. Dr. Winston.
Winston.
Like Winston with
Excuse
an A. It's pulled from a name of like architect of lighthouses is the direct thing. So,
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Nonetheless, her eyes are like, I would say greenish, bluish, mayhaps, gleaming. I wouldn't say sparkling with starlight, but I would say gleaming with the bright tropical light.
Fascinating. Because I noticed something with these island NPCs.
Yeah.
And I may be off. It is a few shades on the Roy part of the Roy G. Biv.
Yes.
We're getting lots of yellow eyes.
Lots
We're
of
getting
yellow eyes.
Rhaegar with orange eyes.
Yes.
We got Philip with very yellow eyes.
Mhm.
Makes me wonder if there's a fucking trend here, or if you just were thinking I like pirates. With
If I'm just
not
on my
pirates,
shit.
sailors.
They're sailors.
Yeah, they're sailors. They're sailors for hire. They're reputable people. They're doing this one job and getting out of the life. One last job.
One last job. There's a big tradition of one last job crews existing and dying in this podcast, which is to say Chudley's gang was a one last job gang, but they got. Well, Chudley didn't, but he got out. You know, so Rhaegar will get out, I think, if we follow that trend and get incredible beef with Winslow along the way. But yeah, they're pirates. Okay, so there's two parts to this. Is one that you might be onto something, and the second is I really have been thinking, inspired by books about like them just being like, this person has this color eyes, and this started. I mean, you can look at A Song of Ice and Fire. Sorry to mention it 2 CNCs in a row, where they're like, George is like, well, these people have purple eyes, they're silver hair, and they're really cool, and it's like, oh, albeit I do agree, purple and non-traditional eyes existing is a fun idea, and giving people cool colors that don't really exist in the real world is like a fun little fantastical element.
Yeah, Alexandria's Genesis.
Alexander's Genesis, yeah. Yeah, I just think it's a really cool little thing to add. The Hellfire Knights, Sir Eric, I believe his name was, from One Hell of a Deal.
Yes.
He had bright purple eyes as well. So this has been like a little thing that I've been doing just for me in the past couple iterations of NPCs, is giving them fun colors.
It's just for you. It's definitely not like showing how enchanted they are by the island, depending on like, you know, I say by the island.
By the island itself.
I just mean that because like,
I mean, it's a beautiful place.
Winston. Like, let's be honest here. Winston was fucking...
Dear Eleanor? Say it
Eleanor
again,
Winston. So excited to do a battleships with Rhaegar and Eleanor and Elrys.
I ship Rhaegar with literally everyone. I love Rhaegar.
Yo.
I
I also love Rhaegar. I'm like, I think this is why I'm like desperate for them to be like
Be
in
something.
a big
Yeah.
bad role. Like I want them to just be a recurring, like, you know, this is the villain for the rest
Yes.
of for the campaign.
Oh.
They have an eye patch. Look, Luke got so fucking excited. He started just slamming his microphone.
It's a wrestling match now. Yeah, if this was a different game, truth be told, I think Rhaegar would make a great reoccurring nemesis. That would be sick as fuck.
Right? Nemesis party. We got Joan. We got Rhaegar. We get Bailey Blue.
We can put Loud on there. Everyone hates
Loud.
Everyone thinks Loud sucks, and by everyone I mean the party. My players are like, this guy is a loser. Get him out of our faces. And I'm like, you don't like the Toad Man?
Are you serious?
Luke, sometimes you have little treats for you in your games, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing to have a treat for you.
Yeah. I think the problem comes when 90% of what happens on screen becomes treats for you. You risk developing too much of a sweet tooth. I use this expression a lot. You risk your players mutinying at that point. Topical for the thing. Barring that, Nathan. Let's throw all that stuff out. We have sailors. We have this beautiful island. We have the good Dr. Winstan. I love a good island. I love a good boat. I don't know if the audience knows this about me. I love oceans and islands and boats and nauticals,
That one Weenie
high
Hollow
seas.
really sold me on that. Yeah.
Big stuff. I run a solo game for Carla and I, which is just running through a very heavily modified version of the pre-written module, Ghosts of Saltmarsh. And let me tell you, channeling a lot of those vibes with these past couple episodes, the everything. Not... Yeah, but like
Luke,
the NPCs, characters.
This is your equivalent of having a home gym. This is the DM equivalent of having a home gym for you to like practice your craft, and now
Yes.
you're going out for the performance,
Yes.
and you're like, all right, how much can I squat?
There's definitely, not for this campaign, because I'm too tight-lipped, I believe. But for like other ideas I've had, I've definitely been like, Carla, I don't fucking care what you're doing right now. We need it. Here's the battle map, and here's the setup. Here's like, you run these two characters, and I'll run the... And then it's just like 3 hours of fighting zombies. It was a great experiment, let me tell you.
It sounds
But...
fun.
That's neither here nor there, audience. I really enjoy this setting. It was just like simultaneously, we were having really good fun in episode 228, and
hijinks are back.
yeah, and we were also, I think, well, at least on my end, I'm setting up a lot of things to pay off for me, myself, and my players that I hope land really well.
I think that like as that plan is unveiled, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have not confirmed anything for me
Correct.
regarding like my even more tinfoil hat ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is honestly like a very good payoff for especially the Serenepth. Like her arc as a character, like you did a very good job of making this island very welcoming for her in a fun way that I really like. Where it's like, oh, you can just like chill with Philip here.
Yeah.
You can just enjoy yourself, and that's okay. Hey, listen, princesses, queens, these people have consorts all the time. Don't you want an island getaway?
Yeah.
Because we can offer you that.
Exactly.
Not that I'm saying that's what the idea is. But listen, if I were going to make a pitch to someone who I wanted to have like a little degree of puppeteering over, you know, to get them in a position of political power, that's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
We planned this honeymoon for you for ages. Come on, don't you want to get married?
I don't know how much this comes across, and maybe it's more just in my mental picture. I haven't described very much of it, but this sensation of like Serenepth's here, and everything is very welcoming for Serenepth. It's tailored for Serenepth, but then there's almost like those moments where, and everything is working, and it's like I've never watched The Truman Show, so I'm just going based on my basis of what it is. Or no. Yes, from Get Out, when our wonderful main character, whose name I cannot remember off the top of my head, oh god.
It's been years since you've seen that movie, I assume.
Yes, it has. But he goes upstairs at a certain point to check on if his phone is charged. This is when they're having like the big, auction, and everyone stops what they're doing and like looks up at the ceiling, right? That's the feeling I feel whenever Serenepth is like walking through this town, walks by all these sailors, and they're like doing their stuff, and then the moment that she's out, they're just like, fuck. Right? And just like staring off and like waiting and seeing. She is the object of everyone's...
Are you waiting for me to fill in the blank?
Not attraction.
Well, no, but she is very much the prize, right?
Yes.
Like, just based on Rhaegar's like interaction with Mira as Philip, I think it is very, very clear, like, oh, these people are wanting a massive payday.
Yes.
And they need a payday that they can, like, really believe that they are getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seeing the princess.
Yeah. In the flesh, walking around. It's like, that's my money walking by right there, right? We need to make sure this is fun. And like, oh, we're going to play up everything's good. We're just checking on the boats. And the moment she's out of sight, like the tension can be like, oh,
Yeah,
fuck,
time to
right?
play the knife game. Jesus,
Yeah, exactly.
I need to do this real quick. You made everyone be playing the knife game, which
Yeah.
I really appreciate. It's like, oh, this is a sport for these schmucks.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, I should call this like let me walk you through some like iterations of names. The first one that came to me, I was just like, oh, I'm gonna call this Cabana something, and I was like, Cabana Katana? No, that's terrible. And then I was like, Eighth Blade Club, that works, right?
Oh my god!
But
It
Cabana
has 8 katanas.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. But like them walking in there as, oh my god, the whole fucking ruse on their part, on the Integrity, Winsler and Mira just walking in, oh, it's my cat meowing, don't worry about this, giving a man a bribe and then just going about their business. I think at this point, especially with Mira, Joan Evelyn Kingsley's wonderful distractionary technique of saying, my arm was ripped off by a kraken, to a bunch of tall tale loving sailors, completely integrated. They are completely under the radar at this point. The only person I think who might be suspicious of them still, and that's only just from a self-satisfying perspective, would be Rhaegar, of like, I don't trust these people as far as I can throw them.
Yeah, Rhaegar has a predisposition, I think.
Yes.
To like, especially if they're like, they are the captain of this crew, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not misremembering any. Yeah,
there's
they're
two
in charge of.
Absolutely. There's 2 crews on the island right now, one of which is Rhaegar's, and the other is like the assorted people who work under Dr. Winstan. But yes, Rhaegar is like, let's say if Winstan was in charge and then Philip was like the second in command, considering he might by chance have come up with this idea, Rhaegar will be like co-conspirator at that level, and so stands above them at that level and like has a general understanding of what the plan is in its entirety, right? And so these 3 people showing up, or these 3 people showing up is a element that they did not hear about, they did not pitch, they were not brought into the loop on, and for that reason they are going to be incredibly suspicious, likely no matter what they do.
Yeah, I think the suspicion will probably, if I like, I'm gonna do a little bit of mind reading here.
Yeah.
But my take is like, they're not suspicious of Philip, they're going to be suspicious of Dr. Winstan.
Mm-hmm.
They're thinking like, okay, I see what's going on here. My crew is getting cut out. You're bringing in muscle at the last minute. Now that we have we put the prize in your mouth.
And now you're
Cool.
taking us out.
Exactly.
You're gonna undercut us with these outsiders, these fucking green nobodies, right?
Yep. I can definitely see that.
I'm envisioning Rhaegar as a person who's like, especially in this moment of like really high stress of like, we are so close to the goal line here. We are so close to getting our payout, is like that interaction very quickly could have come to actual blows very easily, which in the event that it in the future probably will come to blows, I am so excited to show off what Rhaegar can do. Rhaegar is designed, dear audience member, as a complete reaction to the floppage of Diana the Angel. Ain't gonna happen again. 0% chance. I'm not gonna let it happen.
Luke was staying up in the lab all damn night, testing on rats.
Yes.
To make sure.
The perfect balance. Everything in the grandest proportions.
I'm giving you a rod of rulership. I'm giving you the rod of lordly, just rods everywhere.
Just a bunch of rods. They've got the looks. They've got the mystery. They've got the powers. And they will execute on those things come hell or high water. That is my...
Or both.
Or both. When... Yes. Oh, goodness gracious. What else to discuss on this episode? Do you have any other major questions? Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I had a DMing question, especially because of I find Sam's approach with Sereneth to be really interesting here, where it's like Sereneth is playing like the long game,
yes,
but also is answering things honestly in a way that I'm really like appreciating.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, like, is this a gift to you, the DM, or is it like a curse of like, oh no, I'm putting this here for you to push back on?
Creating a welcoming atmosphere is supposed to be a bit disarming. Like, there's that innate mistrust, but And they talked about this a lot in the last CNC. And this is a very interesting thing that happened in the last CNC. We recorded our section, and then the players recorded their section. And I said, they fell for the ruse. I wasn't under the impression that they bought it. I was just under the impression that they let it happen, right? And then all the players go, I'm so fucking suspicious. As soon as we finish that, Ben's like, we shouldn't have done that. We fucked up, right? And I think that carries on into this, where there's this feeling from Sam/Serenep of like, I don't trust this, right? Like, this is gonna pop off in a bad way, but I'm gonna put my faith in Philip, right? I'm gonna put my faith in the fact that this might be okay. And I'm going to answer these questions honestly. I'm gonna sit down with this old doctor for tea, and she's going to ask me weird questions, and she's gonna try to disarm me with a kind of, oh, I'm just an academic at this island out in the middle of nowhere. I totally have sway with the court, though, in a minor way. I'll help you out, right? Which I think is something that Serenep Sam is looking for, is like a branch to cling to like bring them to safety, to pull them up out of the water from drowning, as it were, right? And that's exactly what the branch Dr. Winston extends, and then even like goes like, oh, come look at my research. You're a smart kid, right? You're better than that Philip idiot.
God, also fucking love both as, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah,
you.
no.
Look, poor form on me as an interviewer. You can tell I'm going to radio school. But I wanted to just say that I actually think that was a very good hint in terms of like what is up with Philip right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Philip, I think, to the audience, it might read as like, yeah, Philip is just kind of a bonehead. Like, we have, he's white bread.
Yeah.
Like, he's nothing. But he had some time at Wildcliff.
Yes.
It would be very odd if he just wasn't in right now, as we saw with the Detect Thoughts.
Mm-hmm. That
wind blowing through an empty space. The person whose thoughts are like currently at control just wasn't in the room. This shows my hand, but I think I've already showed my hand enough.
No worries.
Winsler detecting magic and seeing abjuration and, not thinking, what if someone's pulling a veil over my eyes right now? What if those little star gleaming eyes have an enchantment on them right now? What if this man is covered in enchantment and someone has done something such that I can only see the abjuration which they would want me to see, right? What if some good doctor on an island with lots of star power just had a chance to use enchantments and illusions to the heart's desire, Who's looking over her shoulder?
Definitely not me. I'm not even in the world.
Ugh.
God, loved that. But all of that to say,
Yes.
A part of me wonders if, and I know this is not like, it must be thrilling and almost kind of dangerous for you as a DM, because you are offering a player a like, hey, here's your quick ticket to a happily ever after.
Yes.
Like that is what this is all being packaged as. And I think with Serenep specifically is probably the most likely to take that chance.
Yes.
Specifically because we have seen her consider it in the past, but she didn't like the source.
Yeah. It is definitely a consideration, right? Of like, there's a billion different ways this plays out where it's a happy ending, right? In quotation marks, it's a happy ending. Where Serenep can sail off into the sunset, where Serenep gets an out, right? Mira doesn't have an out. Winsler had an out. He died. They brought him back, and he wanted to come back. Integrity doesn't have an out, right? She's ride or die with the progenitor. Like they said, we're gonna use each other, and then we're gonna part ways at the end of that, right?
Very specific language.
Yes.
Patrons are wont to use.
Yeah. Serenep, her big problem is you cannot escape the circumstance of your birth, right? As much as she has tried, as much as she wants to, that is not something that this world, this institution of nobility can allow, right? You cannot just get out scot-free. And this is it. This is the world saying to Serenep, hey, you can get out of this, right? Just watch that candle, take it all in, trust the good doctor, and everything will work out.
It's good for what ails you.
Yeah. Look how it's treated Philip. He gets free reign. He gets to go wherever he wants. He gets to go save the girl.
It's like, it isn't like he isn't always. It isn't like, he isn't always there, but it isn't like he isn't there when he's there, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. That is what gets me, is this, like, oh no, this is, like, Philip following an order of, like, charm Sereneth and do it whatever way you think
However
best.
you can do it, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that small amount of agency he still retains. And there's ways that you can, and we showed this already, right? There's moments where you can break through that by provoking strong emotions from someone. When Sereneth at the chapel in 226 is like, hey, like, are you okay? What's going on with this? And he's like, don't ask me that right now. Please don't ask me that right now. And then when they're on the island, 227, and she's like, what is this, right? Like, what happened? What's going on with you? And he has this moment, and it breaks through to him, and he's like, what are we doing here? And then snap back in. And he's like, let's go slash around the water. Ha 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 ha.
Oh, God. I'm sorry. This is just
Yeah.
saying all the things I fucking loved in 228. It's like, oh yeah, I fucking love the beach episode montage.
Yes.
Like, I'm so surprised we didn't get Philip grilling or anything like that. Like,
Goodness gracious.
listen, there's still time.
There's still time.
But I also wanted to just ask, Swim has been able to get out of hell at this point. Like, that sets a bar very high in terms of what kind of, like, challenge they're up for.
Yeah.
I really like your new approach of, instead of having 3 very powerful enemies, I'm just going to make sure that there's like a small army on this island,
Mm-hmm. What are you going to do against 30 people,
Yeah. This is a very fun aspect of D&D that doesn't get explored very much, which is the sneaking around aspect, the skullduggery,
yes,
if you will,
yes,
of knowing that you are outmatched if you face anyone head on, which I think Wildcliff is really well suited for anyways. Yes. Like, we get this quite a bit, but God, this is it feels like all of you are having so much fun with it.
Oh, I'm glad.
Especially in the, like, was it the Cabana where, like, Joan Evelyn Kingsley made her debut?
Joan Evelyn Kingsley, Castaway, Bobby Billy Betty Boop, Billy Betty Boop, Billy Betty Knifes Boop. Just fantastic stuff.
Knives with a KH.
Knives with a K and an H. Carla's entire brand.
But I was just going to ask, like, you have a very difficult tightrope to walk of...
Yes.
I both want to make this challenging, and I also want to make it rewarding when you do succeed on the challenges. But there are some things that I need to have happen, or, like, I guess my thing is, like, which dice rolls are the ones that make or break them? Like, is it sensing the opportunity of just timing of, like, yeah, I'll make it a DC 30 because, like, there's no chance? Or is it more of a factor of, like, no, you have failed enough of these checks that, like, your cover is blown no matter what you say or do now?
I think there could be a moment where it comes down to the line, right? I think there could be moments where they just, no matter what they do, like, the best they could do at that point, it would be damage mitigation, right? There are definitely things they can do that would lead to a situation where, against everything that they've done up to this point in successfully infiltrating, there could be a moment where, like, they just shit the bed, right? And stuff goes bad. Normally, the way I do stuff is less contingent on big fails and successes, with notable exceptions. Most of the time, it's like the small accumulated successes and failures that I really take into consideration, almost like the long-term trends of how dice rolls are going. I often, and this might be like a bad DMing, but often for things that aren't super important, I use very soft DCs that are more scaled to how people have succeeded compared to others. And in the event that people continually are just, as the group is rolling really low, that will trend into worse and worse situations, which the players often take those moments and just take very decisive action out of it.
That's a really clever way of putting it.
Yeah. They've infiltrated, right? Mira has told this story. A kraken ripped my arm off. The main contingent of sailors, who would be the bulk of the people, if they were just to come in guns blazing, they would get stomped out. I believe.
Oh yeah.
both in part due to the number of people, not so much that these sailors are prospective heroes of their own right. Not everyone sitting here is a CR-19 enemy, right?
What the fuck? Why not?
But underestimating the powers that govern this island, I would say, which has led Serenep into the small trap that she fell into. Underestimating the powers that govern this island and the powers that rest nearby those things would probably be quite damaging to any forward attempts by the players or the characters to try to attack their way in. This is an encounter constructed around the knowledge that these people are who they are, right? We know who Serenep is. The people hired to do this job have things in place to deal with someone like Serenep.
And also, they know that the control over Philip is not exact, so everyone knows the warning signs to look out for.
Exactly.
Well-informed mooks are the bane to any party. Like, having just regulations in place, having a union, these things are what we need in more dungeon encounters.
Absolutely. And the other fun thing with that is that there's this very clear hierarchy of who is in charge here on the island.
Based
and
on
they
the
are
color of their eyes.
Based on the color of their eyes. And they are rubbing shoulders with like the little grunts on the ground who know some of what's going on, and they know some of the plan. They know some of what's to come. They know the warning signs. They know the things to look for and the things to watch out for, but they don't know the entire story, right? So them rubbing shoulders with these sailors in the Cabana, they can probably learn about a bit of the plan. If they were to somehow finesse either Philip or Rhaegar into being a bit more loose-lipped, whatever that takes the form of, whatever greasing that is, they would learn probably a much more nuanced version or vision of what that plan to do with Serenep. Why are we doing this? What's going on? And then the person who has like the most pieces understood is, of course, our wonderful Dr. Eleanor Winstan, sitting up in her tower, watching over the permanent resident of this island, the person who knows the forces that govern the island, as it were.
Well, I am so excited for her to clue Serenep in. I'm sure that is what this is all about.
Yes.
And to get there, I have to go ahead and wrap this episode up, I'm afraid. Luke, thank you so much for joining me.
Yes.
And dear listeners, thank you for listening.
Yes.
It really means the world that you listen. And it would also mean the world if you would go to your podcatcher of choice, give us a quick 5-star rating, a nice little review. We genuinely read all of them.
Yes.
They make us really happy when they're good. And when they're middling, that breaks my fucking heart, because that means that you put thought into it. Meanwhile, like, if you love us so much that you have already rated and reviewed, and you're like, can I go the extra mile, as it were? Toss us a few bucks and get some dope-ass rewards over at our Patreon. Patreon.com/Trials and Trebs.
Yeah.
Trials and Trebs. You can get bonus you get we had some good bloopers in this recording today.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we had some.
There's some fantastic bloopers.
And also Treb merch.
Trebmerch.com. Yeah.
Yeah. I was personally wearing my Ascend shirt earlier, but then I sweat too much in it. So I had to change to something a little bit more airy.
I was wearing my limited edition Camp Daybreak t-shirt at the gym the other day when it was 32 degrees. And I, boy howdy, sweat through the whole dang thing.
That's how you know it's a real camp t-shirt, though.
Yeah, you too can buy a t-shirt and sweat through it on your own.
Hell yeah. Don't you want to be like us?
Sweaty.
Just so sweaty. These shirts are the sweatiest you'll ever... No, actually, there's a market for that. We can't. Anywho, follow us on Instagram at Trials and Trebs. We got little episode teasers. We'll let you know when episodes are out. We may even shout out some really incredible fan art.
Yes.
Oh my god. I've absolutely love getting to showcase people's art on there. And hey, if you make fan art, make sure to tag us. Make sure to let us know. And there's a chance that you too can end up on the very coveted TNT Fan Art Friday. It's not Fan Art Friday, it's just Art Friday. Fuck it. Get me out of here. It's gone off the rails.
Get out.
We were sliding out of the TMs. Fuck, that's brutal.